getting supplies to go kill evil things with.
I'm Austin.
And I'm Cloud.
This is We Watch Please.
This week's movie is It Chapter 2. It Chapter 2 is a 2019 supernatural horror film directed by Andy. I remember thinking, like, hey, it's a guy named Andy that's not named Andrew. What can I say?
Names.
Andy Machete. Andy. His name is Andy. Starring Jessica Chastain, James McAvoy, Bill Hader, Isaiah Mustafa, Jay Ryan, James Ransone, Andy Bean, and Bill Skarsgård. I don't know about synopsis.
Okay, so we go back to Derry, where Mike, the black kid, never left, while everyone else did. And then it's been 27 years, and the Pennywise kills a gay guy, and so he calls his friends back who seem to not remember anything because magic. And then they all get together, have panic attacks, relive past horrific events, and then they kill a clown by literally calling it a clown.
So, it's not really that clear from the book either. So we can just, like, freely speculate about this, I suppose. Did those guys think that they're murdering a guy, right? Like, they can't think that there's not some chance that he's going to die. And if that's what's happening...
Wait, what?
The guy, the punks that beat up the gay guy.
Okay.
Like, they beat him up, like, really bad, and then they throw him off a bridge with him basically unconscious. Like, they think they're killing a guy, right? Like, is that what they're up to?
Probably.
And if they do...
They don't even come back to these people.
Are we to assume that is, like, Pennywise having influence because he hasn't gotten guy from first movie out of jail yet? Or do they just hate gay people that much?
I don't know.
And then he
like,
comes along and bites the chest out.
Like... I was a little on the fence on whether or not they were trying to use this, like, incredibly hostile, like, we don't like gay people in Derry to lead into something, or if it was supposed to be like, look how Derry hasn't changed in all these years because of the effects of what's going on around it. Because, like, they really do try to push this whole, Derry is magic because of this thing landing in Derry, and... because of that, there's all these weird properties to it. And so, like, I guess it changes very, very slowly, or the people in it are... I don't know. I don't really know, because they try to show us that the comedian, what's his name? Bill? No, Bill was the guy who lost George.
Yeah. Well, the comedian is, like, his real
Bill
name's
Hader.
Bill.
Yeah,
but,
Richie.
So his real
Richie.
name is Bill,
Okay,
but his name is Richie.
Yeah,
we're going to
like,
talk about Richie.
Because, like, Richie and Eddie, kind of, it's like, oh, the bridge, R and E, ooh. It's like, okay, so is this supposed to be a thing? They don't really cover that. And then the Jewish kid who killed himself as an adult in the bathtub. Like, I almost thought that was him who was not thrown over and saw Pennywise. I almost thought that was him until later, and it's just like, okay, so that wasn't him.
Yeah, because we
Okay.
don't know who's playing anybody yet. And
Yeah.
But it does feel sort of like, do we know these people? Are these supposed to be people that we met as kids before? Because otherwise we don't know who they are or why we're spending time with them.
Yeah,
but
it
just turns out they're just some guys. Like, there's no other previous importance to them.
Yeah, it was a very odd way to introduce Pennywise's return. It's like, you could have had a crime scene without actually witnessing the crime, just to have Mike's character show up, and then it says come home, and then it's like, okay, so we got Mike back in, okay, let's move forward. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it's just it just stood out, and then there wasn't any additional payoff because of it.
No, I think it's just a way to give us some something violent right away. It also adds time, which it doesn't need necessarily because it's quite lengthy.
It's like 2 hours and 50 minutes.
Yeah, it's not like we were running short, so we got to fill time. Was it clear to you that they didn't remember what had happened before until they were because they're at the restaurant and then suddenly they realize, wait, we don't really know why you brought us here.
Yeah.
But we all showed up anyway just because we thought it'd be cool to see each other, which is not the tone that Mike has on the phone at all. He's like,
no.
You have to come back. Remember you promised. And then they all show up and they're like, we promised. Wait, what happened? And then they start to remember. And so all of that was really odd.
It was. I didn't quite realize that was the point until I don't remember who it was, but someone's scar started hurting. And then like the memory thing I didn't catch on right away, but as much as it was, it's probably more magic stuff going on. Because that was what stood out to me is like he makes the call and then everyone kind of immediately reacts in a really negative way.
Yeah.
And I don't remember who it was. I think it may have been Xavier looking at his hand like, my hand.
I think no, wasn't it Bill? After he like comes out after he walks away from the set and then isn't that I don't remember.
That's Professor Xavier. That's Bill. Georgie. That's him. I was making a joke.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, but I was pretty sure it was him.
Yeah, I think it is.
Because the comedian threw up.
Yeah,
the lady almost got beat by her husband. The no longer fat kid who's now hot just looked out over the balcony of his glass walls.
Yeah, he didn't react that strongly.
Yeah.
He kind of felt of the note from the yearbook, but he didn't react in a really traumatic way like the others did. He didn't crash his car or anything.
Stanley reacted by killing himself.
Yeah,
which I didn't think he did. It was kind of odd because like whenever we see him in the bathtub and then you can start seeing blood, I almost thought that like Pennywise got to him.
Yeah.
Like right there instead of him doing it to himself. And they kind of make a comment about that. Like, oh, well, he did get to him because he was like the weakest.
Yeah, but it's like a
wink,
metaphorical
nudge.
Get to him. It's just like he couldn't take suddenly remembering what had happened.
Well,
which I guess he must remember something because he remembers enough to be like, nope, I'm not going back there. Well, and they don't seem to.
That's okay. So I thought Stanley was one of the two gay people who got beat up, like the one who wasn't thrown off the bridge.
Yeah, but it turns out not.
Yeah, I thought that was him because then that would give him a reason to want to kill himself because he just seen Pennywise again and like, okay, well, this would have made sense and I could have been like, oh, okay, I fully understand all the way until the end when they're like, oh yeah, guys, like I don't really understand why, but I'm super scared and I can't do it, so I'm going to kill myself. So I'm not there so y'all can save the day because magic. So like I like the ending with that where it's like a lot of really nice and clean closure and it is a better ending than something Stephen King would have wrote for it. But at the same time, it doesn't make sense because how would he have known?
Yeah, he writes he's like, this isn't a suicide note, except I'm writing it right before I kill myself so you'll understand why I'm about to kill myself. So yeah, I guess I just wrote a suicide note, which he doesn't seem to realize. But he did. That was something that people speculated about after the first one was whether they would do he kills himself because he does in the book.
Yeah.
But it seemed like, well, now we just like don't have, seems not fair to this character that he never really gets to have an adult version, which he doesn't. I mean, he does for long enough to kill himself in the bathtub and like that's all. And have a wife or somebody that we don't see. We just hear over the phone.
And see, like that part is what kind of, I guess you would say, both cleared the confusion and then created more confusion, because at this time I still thought he was the gay guy, and then like the woman answers the phone and I'm like, wait a minute, she doesn't sound like his mom. Like, oh, okay, so that wasn't him on the bridge, and then I had to like start reconnecting dots that didn't exist.
Mm-hmm. People mostly didn't learn anything.
No.
From being kids. I mean, and not even the like, let's all get killed by Pennywise again. I mean, like, she had an abusive dad and she married an abusive husband, and he had a fat smothering mom and he married a fat smothering wife.
Yeah.
And like, there's just no people did things don't change, I suppose. Or the more they change, the more they say the same, bromide, etc. Like they just like
they're merely bigified versions.
They
of
are.
children.
They are the same as they were as kids.
Yeah. Now, this is one of those kind of things that I would have complained about as your kids, you went through something, and why are you making the same mistakes? Why are you doing it? And then they're like, oh yeah, well, everybody forgot stuff, so they're having to relearn it. I'm just like, it feels like a cheap cop-out, but at the same time, like, I can understand because you set it up as like a universal, like rule of the world. So as long as you keep following it, I can't complain too much. But at a point, Eddie should have stopped being such a gigantic wuss.
Yeah.
That really kind of pulled me down a little bit. Because even if he left Derry and he forgot all of the other things, like he ended up being the works for the insurance company, disaster risk analyst.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just like, well, you're having to deal with dangerous stuff all the time. Like, you can still be scared, but be smart about it.
But he doesn't have to deal with dangerous stuff. He just has to imagine what dangerous stuff would cost. Yeah. So he can do it safely from his office without having to be any actual danger.
I still think it's weak.
He owns a limousine company in the book, so the insurance analyst thing is particular to the movie.
And I thought the inhaler was like a placebo thing, where he wasn't actually sick. The mom just was like, "You're sick, take this."
It did seem like that in the first one.
And he's still doing his inhaler bit.
Yeah, which,
like, I don't know, maybe he really does have asthma, and she just added more stuff to it. And so it's like, okay, well, I don't do all the other stuff, but I still need my inhaler. And I'm like, okay, well, I thought it was part of the bit, but I guess not.
Well, I wonder if he really, because he doesn't have one at first. He goes and gets one because that's his like linking totem to the past thing. So he still has a prescription for it, I guess. So
yeah, he still had one. He had to get another one because he had one in the Chinese
oh yeah,
restaurant.
He does, yeah.
And he stopped by because he had that prescription. And then that was really nasty.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that the teenage girl still works there as the adult now. So she's been working in the same pharmacy for 27 years.
Because things don't change.
Yeah, things don't change in there.
Change.
What else was there?
I wonder if maybe that's what's going on. It's like, well, things don't change in Derry, and even though they left and they don't remember, they're still part of Derry, and so they don't change either.
Well, see, when it comes to having to deal with the change, like, obviously, if nothing changed, we wouldn't have these buildings. It would still be, like, huts and teepees and, like, Native Americans living there and then trying to evacuate. Like there has to be a level of change. And I'm just wondering if it's about, like a mixture between people coming and going and then certain periods of time and, like, linking those every 27 years, like, little things like that. So if someone from the outside moves to Derry, then they bring the change with them. But if nobody goes to Derry, then nothing changes.
Mm-hmm. Well, wasn't there in the research they did as kids something about, like, pilgrim types coming along? Like, didn't we see? I don't think they made a point of it, but wasn't there, like, a picture or something
Most likely.
in one of the library books or something that we saw. So like that would be, I guess, in the earlier time, like somebody coming in and causing a change.
Yeah, and then we did have the carnival folk who stopped.
Yeah.
So do you think that he actually ate the kid in the Hall of Mirrors, or was the kid itself an illusion? Because like we know that Pennywise could have just been out and about, eating kids anytime he wanted. But we also know that he specifically targeted Bill to save the kid. So, like, once Bill knew the kid was there, and then obviously Penny was there as well, like, because, like, and the reason I bring this up is because the mess got cleaned up immediately. Was killing the kid in such a fashion only to scare Bill.
Maybe. I mean, he runs away, so we don't know. Yeah. If like suddenly the police converged or something, we don't know what happened after. It could. I feel like the kid at the football game or baseball, whatever it was, I can't even remember.
The little girl at the baseball game.
Yeah, she was real.
Yeah,
and so because we saw her independent of anyone else, she had parents, and so that makes it hard to tell whether this other kid. I mean, the other kid had parents in the restaurant though too.
Yes.
So.
Okay, the difference is
do you think that is the real kid, and then like Carnival Kid is a fake Pennywise version of that? So there is a real kid, but maybe that's not the real kid.
Yeah, that's my thing. It's like the kid that he kills was actually like fake. It's like, hey, we know that you saw the kid in the restaurant. We know you saw the kid in the street by the sewer. Because I know you're interacting with him, I'm going to take that form to screw with you and scare you. Like, I think that's what it was. Otherwise, that mess still would have been there afterwards. Because, like, there's always been a mess when he kills people. But there wasn't a mess that one time. And the mom just, like, ignoring the daughter after the daughter complains about being there. Like, that's called negligence. Negligence.
If that's true, then that lessens the effectiveness of that scene somewhat. Because there's only... I don't know,
well,
two or three sequences that are like actually really like scary in an actual way rather than just like something bloody is happening or something supposedly scary is happening. And like that was one of them, like him on the other side of the glass and Pennywise banging his head through the thing. And like that worked. But if it's fake,
no.
It doesn't matter as much.
It does matter because it mattered to him. It mattered to Bill because Bill wouldn't have known.
Yeah, but there's no there was no danger to anyone really.
Well, Pennywise is still there and he still wants to kill Bill.
Yeah, he didn't though. He could have, but he didn't.
But that's the thing is it wasn't about killing him, it was about stirring up fear. So Penny still accomplished what he was trying to set out to do. The scene was still horrific. The only difference was, is the kid alive or not alive beforehand? Because that's the thing. It's like, it wasn't about the kid or killing the kid. It was about creating the fear to scare Bill. And that was done. That was accomplished. I still think the scene is good because in that moment, it didn't matter if the kid was real or not because you were trying to save the kid. Because if he did manage to save the kid, well, then what? But since it didn't happen, we're stuck with what was there. Because does he eat souls? Does he not eat souls? Like, that's the thing that confuses me about, like, the consumption. Like, because it looks like he kills them, but then if you kill them, they're not alive to look at the death lights to have their souls sucked. That's a little confusing. You'd think you would want, like, to have them alive so you could drain their souls and have them super terrified. Instead of ripping them limb for limb?
Yeah, well, we talked about in the episode for the first movie that they made a decision for movie purposes to really focus on the clown part of it. And even though he manifests as other things from time to time to scare people, the default is the clown. And so it has this like the clown is sort of the real thing except for like the glowy light thing. And that's not the way it is in the book. He's much more it's much more of like this is some kind of like evil force that can take different forms, which is why it's called It, not Pennywise, the title of the story, because Pennywise is just a form that it can take because some people happen to be scared of clowns.
Yeah.
A fair number of people happen to be scared of clowns. But because they don't do the like giant spider and celestial turtle fight in space thing, because people think that's silly and don't like it.
They really hammered in him not being able to write a good ending.
Yeah, well, and it's not just that. Like, various other Stephen King stories, people have complained about endings, or especially in adaptation form. Like the TV version of The Langoliers and various other things.
Like when you have Stephen King cameoing in the movie, also complaining about the ending.
Yeah.
There's a thing to be said.
That's a really meaty cameo compared to what he normally gets. Like, usually you just like, you see him, like he's in an episode of Under the Dome and he's just like sitting at the diner drinking coffee and he's in it like 2 shots. He doesn't say anything or anything. Yeah. That's usually what happens. He's not there very long. He gets an entire scene and then he gets a character
and $300.
Yeah. Oh, you're a writer. You're the big writer. You can afford it. Which feels like something that he must have had people tell him when he's tried to buy things.
Listen. Listen. All right. I almost thought that Bill's totem was going to be that bicycle. Because we kept having flashbacks of the bicycle, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Like, what are they going to be doing with these totems? Because that's a big-ass totem. Yeah, so...
Yeah, that's not going to fit into the thing to be burned in the sacrifice.
No. No, okay.
I did like your token is an actual token. Like, yeah. I liked that reaction. But because it's not this, like, they downplay the celestial force, although they do, it's a more prominent thing in this because they do have the history of that it fell from space and that the lights are the true form of it. But they still do an awful lot of focusing on the clown, and then like having it remain as the clown is the way to kill it. And like even when it kind of turns into a spider-like thing, it still is wearing Pennywise's clothes and has his head, and so the clown thing is so central that.
Well, I'm almost not sure if I would say that it's the clown that is central as much as it's that mixture of humanoid form, so we ourselves can always stay some level of attached to it. Because if it was just to turn into a giant spider, well, now you're just fighting a giant spider. Mm-hmm. But with it having that kind of mixture of that, like the alien spider legs, but it still has the humanoid face and it can talk to you, like that adds to the horrificness of what you're fighting because it can taunt you. And then when you taunt it opens its face up and then like the lights shine through it and it glows orange and then you just kind of go, Duh.
Yeah.
And then when that happened, like that was the giveaway. That I knew immediately that's how they were going to defeat it, because that's what he was doing. Is he was talking smack?
Yeah.
And he's just like, "Hey, ugly, your mom's a fat cow," and then it just like beamed him, and I'm like, "Okay, that's what they're going to do." It defeats monsters, you know. If you believe it can. Like, someone get me a bazooka. All right. Because I really believe it'll defeat monsters. Absolutely. I only need 2 rounds. One to make sure and the other one for fun.
With bazookas.
He does have a nice throw, though.
Electronic spitballs. Damn. Close, General, close. Only not electronic spitballs. Atomic spitballs.
Throwing rad grenades over here.
I mean,
we should have fucking shotguns.
Now, that was my. They're in America, all right. They can get shotguns.
No, they're not. They're in Derry.
They're still in America. In Maine.
In Maine, yeah.
You can get shotguns. I'm surprised no one even thought about, like, we need guns. It'd be easier if we had guns. It's like, we don't... The gun store's closed or something. Like, just make an excuse, but at least address it. Because, yes, we have to go kill a clown. I want a shotgun. Preferably with a belt with extra rounds. Because I'm going to shoot it more than once.
Mm-hmm. A bandolier.
Yes. 2 bandoliers.
2 bandoliers.
It's like, they, and especially with Mike being as prepared as he was, like, I can understand, like, oh, well, the shotgun's not going to kill the entity. We have to perform the ritual, and I'm like, hey, that's cool. I can understand that, but
yeah, I mean, it's true. I suppose
it does definitely help whenever you can fill it full of lead, so it's not moving. Because then, if it's not moving, it's not trying to kill you, so you can get stuff done faster. When it's running around doing its old, like... Now, granted, I never thought spider. I thought, like, someone watched or played some Warhammer 40k and was just like, okay, we're going to take these Tyranids and we're going to stick a clown face on it. And I'm like, all right, it's kind of cool. I like that. I mean, clowns are dumb, but all right, let's see what this goes. And then, like, we're going to throw a rock at it and then run.
Yeah.
What? Ah! The dog. The door thing. I love that they brought the door thing back. Like the scary, the not scary, and the very scary.
That was one of the very, very few attempts at comedy that wasn't just annoying. Because, like, most of the time, Bill Hader is just annoying. Like, he's trying to stick some kind of joke or, like, prod at someone into the middle of a serious scene, and, like, I know that that's what the kid version of his character did too, but it feels weird when it's adults and, like, they've come back and, like, they know that things are serious now.
Well, I'm not going to complain about that in the same way you are. I think they did it too much because we know he's a comedian. We know he talks like this. But they seem to add it at every single opportunity. And just, like, calm down, like, remove about half of them, and I think it's fine. Like, even at the end, I fucked your mother. Like, I was fine with that.
That was okay because it's a callback, but...
Yeah, we get the dynamic between the two of them, and so when they say it to one another, I think it's fine. When they're at the door, it is the two of them.
The door works.
Yeah, but it's like whenever he's off by himself and he's talking to other people... or he's, like, having to interact with the other characters, like, that's when it gets annoying because that's not the dynamic for this the comedy that they try to bring. Like, stop doing that.
But also, he says in the restaurant that he doesn't write his own act.
Yeah.
So, like, he can't even, like, I guess he can tell jokes, but he can't make jokes, like, or good jokes by himself. So...
Yeah, I can
which
believe
maybe
it.
Then he's acting in character by not being effective at making jokes when he's not doing his act, but that still doesn't make it less annoying. So apparently the theater closed in 1998 because there's a You've Got Mail poster up in one of the poster cases. So it's kind of a long time ago for a movie theater to have closed, even in a small town.
Yeah.
And kind of late for them to have still had the arcade machines that they do.
Mm-hmm.
Which, what kind of person graffitis on the screen of a real Street Fighter arcade machine?
Children who don't know any better.
Like, who are you? They should have sold those off. Like, when they closed the theater, like, there was something.
Like, well, absolutely. You probably get a couple $100 for each one of them, especially if they work.
Mm-hmm.
Like old arcade systems are valuable to arcade system collectors.
Yeah, which there are.
Yeah, lots of them.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, the only real thing that kind of bothered me was the zombie friends. driving the car, getting
That
the
was weird,
dude
yeah.
out of the insane asylum, and the fact that he's still been there for 27 years instead of actually being in prison for murder. You know, little things like that. Like, okay, I understand you kind of wanted it for the story, but at the same time, realistically, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So, you're going to be telling me that this kid had, well, no, you could talk about the stuff with the killer clown and all that, and people would say it's crazy. So I can
Yeah, which I guess
it.
must be what happened. Like,
Yeah.
the clown made me do it. And, like, you're not going to regular jail.
Yeah. This is before 2000, so yeah, I mean, I can understand. But still, the zombie people.
Yeah, the zombie people thing is really strange because he's got to be real, right? He's got to be a real zombie because he's operating
Machinery,
yeah, he's
and handing
driving
him
a
the
car.
knife.
Yeah, the real knife, which he carries from someplace.
Yeah.
And I guess cuts the fence because he doesn't have time to do that because he escapes and then just runs through and it's open. So I don't think he has a secret hole to go and cut the fence that he has not used to escape already. So
Yeah,
real
it's,
effects are being had, which kind of calls into question why it's even necessary to break him out of jail.
Yeah.
Because why not just have the, like, if you can do this zombie control thing, can't they do it?
I don't know, like, I almost just wanted to see, like, the red balloon to, like, appear in the room behind him after he goes into it, and then, like, there's a little note with a knife attached to, like, underneath the balloon.
That would be better.
And then it's just like, okay, so we know it's Pennywise directly, and have at you.
No, I mean, it's never been exactly clear what the reach or capabilities are of it. So
Yeah.
I guess. But it did seem like he needed him in the first place, like as a kid, because doing things directly that manifesting in person for wasn't possible was something that it needed. But then if you can manifest to bust him out of jail or send something else to bust him out of jail, it seems less necessary.
Yeah. I don't know, like, is it continuity issues or is it like story principle issues? Like, there's an error here, there's something going on, there's a problem, and I'm trying to understand where it is exactly.
I'm not sure. I mean, there's
because, like, I want to say the first one is definitely better because there's less to work with, so they can just kind of move forward in a more clean fashion.
Yeah, it's less complicated.
And I like a lot of aspects in this movie. But it kind of falls into the problem that as I was watching it, I kind of thought about the stuff I was watching, and things started falling apart before the movie even finished. And so, while I like that scene, I'm going to be like, hey, that's bogus. How can you expect me to believe that whenever, like, 5 scenes earlier, you just kind of took a dump in your own hand?
Yeah.
And I almost thought that, what's the kid who does the architecture who was fat? Ben. His name was Ben. Okay.
Yeah.
I almost thought that I was completely wrong with the bicycle thing, but I almost thought that the projector was going to be his because of, like, the emphasis that they kind of made on, like, the projector when they go into the room.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay. And then, like, no, it's actually going to be like much deeper. It's going to be like the fact that he never told her that he loved her, and he was the one that was writing all the poetry, and she was the only person to sign his yearbook. And I'm like, okay, well, that's definitely better. That's definitely better. But when you go into the room and all I see is a turtle on a desk, and I'm like, there's an Easter egg right there.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then it's just like, now we're going to look at the projector. Do you remember the first movie and then when they were using the projector? Yeah, this is probably the same projector. Like, ooh, and he's going to come through the light thing. And it's like, nope. But that's something else that still kind of gets me, is if they defeated, air quotes, Pennywise, and then they're like, oh yeah, we managed to defeat him, but now we're going to get in a fight and argue and, like, split. Was this, like, after the defeat, or was this like in the middle of the movie that they just didn't show us?
It feels like after, because they say something about the
Like we didn't
what happened the rest of that, whole summer. And
well, that's how they phrase it. It's like the rest of the summer, but then we didn't spend the whole summer together. And so I'm like, these things would have had to have happened before the end of the first movie, but you're giving them to us in the way that makes it sound like it happened after the first movie.
It does, which seems like, oh, they didn't really do anything.
Yeah, because like, wasn't the dad, like the lady, wasn't her dad dead at the end of the first movie?
Was he?
I
He
thought
might have been.
I thought he was. I thought he had his head caved in by the toilet.
That seems right.
Because I could have swore she killed him with the toilet, the tank lid of the toilet. Because like there was like the whole blood thing and her panicking and all that kind of business, and then he was gonna like do the whole "I'm rapey," and she like caved his skull in or something. Because I remember like the other kid killed his father with the revolver. You know, he was like the police chief guy, the sheriff.
Yeah.
He was the sheriff and he killed him. But I was just trying to think of like all the family members. Like, well, if he didn't die, then he would have had to have been hospitalized, because at the end of it, she's like, oh, I'm going to go live with my aunt, because that's why she was leaving, and all this other kind of stuff. Oh yeah, the one of the scenes that had Eddie and Stanley, because Stanley was at like the I'm going to be an adult thing.
Yeah.
You know, like with that, like that would seem like that happened afterwards. I'm trying to get all this stuff together and understand what's going on. Because like if the flashbacks that we get happened after they defeated him, then why is he still there to torment them? You know, like that's the tiny bits of confusion that I'm having. Because like if it was I'm trying to treat it like, oh, this happened before they beat him, and it's that style of flashback, but at the same time, you know, it's just like, here you're handing us this stuff in such a way that it don't make sense. The scenes are still cool when they still do their job, but I'm getting nitpicky.
Well, some of the time it does feel like there's a bunch of scenes and it is just kind of messy, that things don't hold together necessarily all the time. Like the amount of times that people are on board and then are not, and then are like quit and leaving again, like off and on, is tedious and not helpful. Oh, that was something that I still don't have an answer for. So like they meet at the restaurant and then they find out what they're really there for, and they're all like, we're gonna leave, and they go back to the hotel and there's no one around.
Yeah.
And they're like really creeped out by it, but then they push past it because they're already scared and are just wanting to leave. And then they end up sort of hanging around by the bar. But we never see anyone at the hotel.
Ever,
any of the times that we're there, and we're there various times, and like a stabbing happens, and they're in the bar a lot, and there are nobody works at the hotel, no one stays at the hotel besides them. The sign outside says no vacancies, and I don't think there are not that many people. I feel like there are more rooms there than that.
People don't just go to Derry.
No, but like,
what's going on here?
There are no people. There's no people. There's no one at the front desk. There's no one in the bar. There's no maids. There's no one.
No.
And it's weird.
It is weird.
It almost like there's like, I don't know if it's supposed to mean something, if it's like Pennywise is keeping people away from there somehow or something so that they can make their plans and eventually feel like they are going to be ready to kill him and then show up and then he can get them. Which seems to be what he wants.
Well, like,
I don't know.
He does do the skateboard thing.
He does do that.
Because it's the kid skateboard.
Now, if the real kid is not eaten by Pennywise, is that his real skateboard? And
No,
is
no,
he
no, no.
wondering where it is?
Like, I have a feeling the kid has already been eaten. I'm saying the kid that we see get eaten is fake.
So he is eaten, just
Yeah,
at a different time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was eaten. And it was probably his blood that he used to ride on the skateboard. Because, like, honestly, I think that would kind of make the most sense. Like, if I was supposed to be in that position to terrify people, like, I already want the people that I can get easily as the food source. But at the same time, like, these people I'm marinating. I'm preparing them and everything. And it would just be easier to have the fake kid compared to the real kid, just in case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I want to know what's up with the skinny guy that was in the for Eddie when his mom was like all tied up or whatever. Who was the skinny guy that was like attached?
Oh
to
yeah,
the
just some
ceiling.
Some guy with leprosy. They tell us that scene.
Like, what was the guy with leprosy wanting to do with he's just kind of like his hands are kind of gone. And
Yeah,
he's just stumbling with his legs. He just wants to lick people.
Well, the thing is also, is that his real mom or is that a fake mom?
It's probably a fake mom. Because remember, it's all about fear.
Yeah.
You know, like, you're really going to get your real mom in on this because, like, are you going to get the real mom in on this? Because then she's going to know something's up because she was obviously tied down.
Well, unless she gets killed or, like,
Yeah.
she's made to forget or something. But we never hear anything about her.
Yeah.
They never go to see her while they're in town. They never go to see anybody, actually. Like, she tries to go to the apartment and finds out that no one lives there anymore.
Well, that's where
Except this
her
old lady.
totem was anyways.
Yeah.
So if the dad
that's-
was or wasn't there, it wouldn't have mattered.
That's the only family connection that's even close to happening.
And I'll tell you what, I'm going to throw hands at, like, giant naked grandma. Like, I don't care if she's a foot taller than me. I know how to uppercut. Jesus. Like, of all of the terrifying things that they threw at these people, like, that was the least scary.
Well, see, that's the thing, is that scene, which we saw most of that scene in, like, one of the extended trailers, and like the early part of the scene works when, like, you're not sure what's going on, and then, like, she kind of, like, shuffles out of the room in a weird way, and then you see, like, a figure run by that seems to not have clothes, and, like, that part of it works. But then once she comes out as giant naked grandma, then it's just silly.
Yeah,
It's not scary anymore. And I mean, like, this might be. I just re-listened to the Michael Jackson's Ghosts episode because I'm like, this episode seems really popular, and I remember it being good, but let me listen to it and see. And, like, I think it is really good, even though we barely talk about the movie in it. But we talk about how even though it wasn't that scary to watch, if that was happening to you in real life, like, you would probably be unconscious because your brain would be like, what is happening? Ghosts and stuff. So, like, if giant naked grandma ran at you in real life, it would probably be scary.
Probably not.
But
it would just be like a really tall, old, naked Russian woman. Like that's what my brain probably would have defaulted to, because it is the least supernatural of them all outside of the previous events that led to it. Because if you want to be like, oh, well, you're going to have to deal with spooky, infected, poison thing. Okay, that's scary. I'm going to jettison. You're going to have to fight Mega Paul Bunyan. I'm gone. I'm ghosting.
That scene was the other scene that was actually really frightening.
I'm ghosting out of there. What happened? What was the... See, I'm trying to remember all of the different ones, because the girl had one as an adult. The comedian had one as an adult. But I don't remember Eddie, sick kid. I don't remember him having one as an adult. Him just having a flashback of having one as a kid.
Yeah, we flash back to Paul Bunyan.
No, the Paul Bunyan thing, that was active. That was the comedian. He was an adult
Oh,
because
yeah.
that was the thing for Stanley. Like, here, come to Stanley's thing.
Yeah.
And then of course he had the flashback for Stanley. That was his flashback. Well, part of his flashback, because he also had the one with the Street Fighter. But like the writer, Mr. Stutters, like I don't remember him having an adult one.
Yeah, he does. He has the one at the drain. Like he almost gets pulled into the drain where Georgie got pulled in. Like that.
Oh yeah, that's
it's
right.
It's intercut
that's right.
with it with the kid. That's the other thing about this is like it's hard to remember what happens to kid them and adult them because it eases in and out of both time periods like really seamlessly and often. So like just like the camera will kind of move from something to something else, and we've made a time period transition, and we don't know until we see one of them as a kid, and sometimes something else happens first, and so it all kind of bleeds together, trying to remember what happened to who.
Say the library kid, Mike, he didn't have like a normal flashback because he was attacked by the guy from the hospital.
Yeah.
And then like immediately gets his head caved in whenever Ben shows up. And then just like takes the axe that was from the case and puts it in his skull.
Yeah.
Like the only one I remember from Ben is whenever he was a kid.
Yeah, they do the fire thing.
Yeah. Now I'd say the fire thing probably wouldn't have been as scary unless all of her was on fire. Because then it's just Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I guess.
So like, he didn't change, like, he didn't get bigger, he didn't get smaller, he wasn't super fast. He was just, man, my head is on fire, give me a hug. And I'm just, nah, bro, I'm good.
Yeah.
Giant Paul Bunyan? I can't throw hands at Giant Paul Bunyan. Nah, I ain't gonna do that. I don't want to punch, sickly mutant acid poison creature thing. I ain't about that life. I'm definitely not going to have flashbacks and then make myself feel guilty because some clown monster creature from space ate my little brother, because I didn't eat my little brother. So I'm not going to have that. I can't feel that.
Yeah.
Because I don't like blaming myself for stuff that other people do. Like that's just part of who I am. So I can't understand that one. But being in the locker, like he hides in the locker and then like Penny is right behind him, probably would have pissed my pants. Not gonna lie, that one kind of got me. But Giant Grandma, no, I'm punching her right in the tit. Gonna go full ham.
No, Giant Paul Bunyan was Kid Him.
Yeah,
it was Kid Him.
It could have been Kid Him, yeah. I just remember him standing out there and then...
Because he comes out of the arcade, he goes and sits on the bench to cry, and then he looks over and suddenly Paul Bunyan's not there anymore. And then, like, the thing comes down.
Yeah.
And
I know your secret.
Like shock. Yeah. What is the secret?
I thought he was supposed to be gay, too.
Well, the punks in the arcade seem to think so, too.
What it was is he was playing Street Fighter with one of them, kicked his ass, and then he was like, "Hey, I'm kind of done. I'm gonna go home." And then it didn't look like, "Hey, I'm really into you."
No, he was just
as
like,
much as it's like, I want
you want to play again.
Yeah, it looked like he wanted a friend to play with because he's been abandoned by everyone else.
It didn't read to me like I really just want to stand next to you and I don't care so much about the playing video games part because I'm gay. Like, it didn't read that way.
Yeah, and then that's when the other guy showed up and he's like, "Hey, quit being such a faggot."
It does seem like
that's what happened. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like, is this another thing? Is he supposed to be gay? And he wants to confess to Eddie, but he's scared. Like, is this going to become a thing? Because I'm like, all right, that's kind of a secret that I can see him holding back.
Maybe this may not be the first piece of the first clue that the punks have. Maybe, but because
it's the first clue we've got.
It's either that's not the first clue, or people in Derry are really worried that other people are gay and nearby, and they just can't deal. Because that's two instances of it. I mean, the guys at the carnival are obviously gay.
Yeah.
So, like, if you have a problem with that, then I guess, you're going to do something. But him in the arcade, he's not obviously being gay.
Yeah,
so.
And there's nothing gay about playing Street Fighter.
And he's like 10 years old. So
yeah.
What does it even mean? Like, what is he planning to do? Like, what does he want? To just hang out, I guess? It doesn't seem... It seems like they have a very extreme reaction. Like, get out of our arcade. You being like, want to hang out a little longer. And they weren't even there for like the beginning of it. They kind of walk in and then get angry very quickly. And then Paul Bunyan tries to kill him. Which, why doesn't he have an axe? Why does he have
a hoe?
Well, it's not a hoe. It's called something. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah,
it's the thing that you use to like guide the logs down the river. It's got like a hook on the end and like a pokey part, and so. But like generally, when you see Paul Bunyan depicted, you see him with an axe. But he didn't have an axe.
We didn't have the budget for an axe.
Well, I guess Derry didn't have the budget for an axe.
Yeah. We had a budget to get a beaver costume, but not to properly make the Paul Bunyan statue.
Yeah. I'm not that into beavers, he says, which is like a gay joke that is just like slides right by if you're not paying attention. I
like the fact that TV over there is like, like, we got the joke. We understood. Yeah.
The TV that you probably can't hear. Maybe you can. I hope you can, but maybe you can for this joke purposes.
Oh, I'm trying to think.
So they fight and they kill it, and then the house like poltergeists itself.
Like, what? It only halfway poltergeists itself because it like
into the ground.
It sucks into the ground, but then it's flat. Like it didn't dip in or anything like Carrie did.
Yeah, like Carrie. I'm thinking of Carrie.
Yeah, because Carrie like sucked into the ground.
Poltergeist gets like tornadoed away. Yeah, Carrie gets sucked into the ground. Yeah, it's much more like Carrie. Which maybe they're like, hey, we're doing a Stephen King reference.
Hey, you saw that movie, right? Yeah, we did a show.
Did you hate that ending? Too bad, because here it is.
Yeah.
I don't remember. What did we think of that when it happened in Carrie? I can't remember.
A lot of just go listen to the episode. Just go listen to the episode, please. I still enjoyed that movie.
We did learn that if someone offers you a cookie,
you take it.
Is not always the best idea.
Nah. Well,
because like devil grandma is like, I've got cookies in the oven. Like, let me go and take off my clothes and like get scary.
Like, okay, so one, you're in Derry. You're starting to remember stuff. Why are you hanging out? Like, I don't care if the grandma's like, I'll give you $1 million. No, I gotta go kill a devil clown thing. I'm only in here to get this thing from my past because we gotta use it in some kind of weird way that Mike hasn't told us yet to kill it. I'm not interested in your cookies or your hospitality, Grandma. Get out the way.
But lonely old people are sad.
I don't care. Lonely old people could die if we don't save them from the evil clown thing. That is the time. You have a job to do. And your job isn't to hang out when your job is to be getting supplies to go kill evil things with.
You might die.
You know, when they were doing the Crusades back in the day, they didn't just hang out at their grandma's place being like, I really got to go save the Holy Land from these bad people. But I'm going to hang out with you, Grandma, sister, something. And I don't... thanks for the tea. Like, no, they were like, got to get this done. And like, oh, no, we're going to hang out here and chill. Like, get it and go.
She actually does hang out for a very long time once it starts to get creepy even.
And it gets creepy, like, super fast. And I mean, like, when I mean super fast, like, she lets her in. It's okay. Everything seems fine. But it's when they sit down. Like, the creepiness levels just start cascading. Well, and I'm not talking about rising.
That, like, she freezes
no one really leaves Derry. Nope, done.
Then sits there for, like, 30 seconds and then like it's just like a robot that glitched. Like it's like that's when you're out.
Yeah,
that's not normal.
And what also is not normal is if I was to be polite, and I'm sitting down, and I noticed that there's no kitchen lights on. There's no kitchen lights on. There was not. I paid very close attention to both the trailer
I thought there
and the
were
movie.
at the beginning, and then they weren't once it got creepy.
I do believe that was the other room because I didn't see anything that looked like the kitchen.
Because they are off once it gets creepy for sure.
Yeah.
And then that you should be out because, like, you're baking cookies in the dark.
Well, whenever she... okay, so she bends down, gets on the floor, pulls the paneling off, sticks her arm in there, and then whenever she's standing up, and then we can see what's behind her, and that's whenever, like Grandma does the creepy walk, it's already dark. It's already dark. So
it's
we
dark,
know...
But then, yeah.
So we know, like, because, like, while the character doesn't know, we know. And we know... well, let me back up. Okay, so the character doesn't know, so I'm not going to blame her for this. But you're sitting there, you can actually see into the kitchen, and there's no lights on, but Grandma's making cookies. Like, okay, so that's obviously weird. She's already did the weird talk thing, and then before, you'd notice the picture on the wall, and then you see the dude who's the clown gone. Why are you standing around? Why are you waiting? Move! Obviously, you're not so scared that you won't move like Eddie was inside the house with the weird spider leg thing.
And he's not.
She's obviously doing something. Why you drag assing around? Move it. Everybody else bailed.
Yeah.
Like literally everyone else was like, nope, gotta go fast. With the mild exception of Bill, because Bill had to talk to the kid about, like, don't listen to the voices.
Yeah.
You know? And I think he could have done a better job of explaining to the kid that if you're hearing the voices and the voices tell you something, don't believe them because the voices are evil because they killed his brother when he was a child.
Yeah,
instead of going
really
like
explain.
Like mad homeless guy who the
which
town
is what
won't.
he does.
Yeah, he goes full mad homeless guy.
He just comes off as crazy and scary and not actually like
helpful
no,
and
for real
protects children.
Like believe me or you might die.
Gamera would not approve.
No. Bill is not friend to all children.
No. I mean, at least he tried.
Yeah.
But at some point the failing was worse than him not trying.
He really doesn't learn not to run in a house of mirrors either.
Yeah.
Like he does it over, like he runs and then like he hits and then for a little bit he'll walk carefully and then he starts to run and then bangs his head again. Like it really, like it does seem like getting hit in the head is like Bill's thing.
Yeah.
For a lot of the time. Because it happens, it doesn't just happen in the House of Mirrors either. Like it happens other times too, and he gets
brain damage.
He gets hit in the head.
I'm pretty good about navigating through the House of Mirrors because like I learned as a kid that you don't walk with your hands by your side. You dunce.
You put your hands out.
You stick your
feel of things.
You stick your palms out and you stick your elbows out to the side. And then you can like either use your elbow or your hand to move through. And then once you fill a gap, then it's like, oh, there's an opening. You can go through areas like it's easy. You don't even have to open your eyes at that point. Because like the vision is supposed to be what messes you up. But if you're not even looking at it and you're just using the feel, bam, you can get around.
I think you might be right that everything that happens in the House of Mirrors is fake. Because when he first goes through the spinny tunnel, like he walks in and then we stay with, like the camera stays with him and then everything behind him spins like totally upside down and he's still standing on it. And that can't happen.
No.
So it's all fake. Because there is like a Far From Home Mysterio kind of quality to a lot of the stuff that happens, especially like old lady in the building, because like that building is abandoned. She realizes when she gets outside, and it was not when she went in, and so like all of that is just imagined.
Mm-hmm. See, like that's always the thing that kind of gets me is like, you know what you're supposed to be doing. Why are you dilly-dallying?
I mean, they know that they can't trust things. Because
Yeah.
they know that Pennywise is messing with them.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like
But they forget all the time.
all the time.
They don't remember. They forget all the time.
Like, they could have gotten so much more done. Like, oh, we could have been productive, and we could have, like, finished this, like, a day and a half in advance. Now, so finishing off a day and a half in advance, okay, so that'd be cool. All right.
I mean, Bill is withholding information from them that isn't helpful.
Wait, which information?
Not Bill, Mike.
Mike. Yeah, Mike.
is
Yeah, I was
withholding
about to mention
information.
that. Like, the whole, like, they have to die kind of thing. And I kind of wonder about that, because it's like, okay, so you burn the totems, it brings the lights in, you do the chanting thing to suck the lights into the thing, and you put the lid on it, but then, like, the balloon inflated, and it pushed the lid off.
Yeah, it didn't work.
And it didn't work, but it's like it didn't work. Did it not work because he damaged the container when he scratched the side off, or did it not work because they didn't die? Because the little flashback thingy we get because he didn't tell him the whole truth is like the people who did it were like slaughtered by tendril thingies.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, this needs an explanation.
Well, it seems like maybe that the whole ritual just doesn't work. Like, which it makes sense that it just doesn't work, because why would this, like, old Indian ritual work on this thing from space? Like, that doesn't really make sense, because it's like using, like medicine magic on this thing that it would work if we were saying, like, oh, this is some kind of like spirit or something. But it's not. Like, it came on a meteor from space. So this is an alien or something.
Well,
and so why would this medicine ritual work?
Well, it like halfway worked because they
I don't know if it does. I don't know if he's just like messing with them.
I don't know, maybe. Plus, like, how can he like absorb their souls and stuff if he just kills them? Like, that's the issue. Like, if you kill him, you can't eat him. So you want him alive, and if you want him alive, you can't kill him.
Yeah, I mean, the whole absorbing souls thing when
conundrum.
it's from space is a weird thing anyway.
Yeah.
But that's just what's like. There's no way out of that, because that's just the story.
And I almost want to say that the death lights are only like half of part of it. Like, I think that the physical entity itself is supposed to be like the tie, like the actual like bonding to the physical realm. And the three lights are supposed to be like I guess you'd say the soul, like the battery that makes everything run. And so like when they actually do kill the physical form, there's nothing left for the lights to be attached to, so they fizzle out.
Maybe.
Because like that, like just trying to explain this in some kind of like fantasy / RPG kind of way, because that's my thing. Yeah, like that's what I could really kind of come up with, because like whenever he's in big spider form and he opens his face up and you see the lights, you see the lights through his head. It's not actually inside of him, but it still does the job.
They're behind.
Yeah, and so like his whole head opens up.
Yeah.
And so it kind of makes me wonder, if you had shotguns and you shot at the lights, would it just pass through the lights? Would it done something to him? We don't know, because no one brought shotguns.
We should have shotguns with this kind of deal.
And so you have that. He throws the spear, the metal rod from the fence spear thingy. He throws it, and it hits him inside the throat, like where he has his like head thing open, which immediately causes him to like flinch, and he kind of closes up. So the lights quit focusing. So we know that simply being lit by them doesn't have any real effect. You have to stare into them unless they're focused. And so I'm really kind of thinking that the physical body and the soul have been separated. So you can't really destroy the soul without removing the connection to the realm. So once the body's gone, it has nothing to connect to. So it just back into space to fight a giant space turtle. But because I was thinking of this, when they left Eddie's body, I was almost afraid that it would have returned in his body. But it never happened, which is nice.
Yeah, because the the connection to Pennywise, like there really was a real Pennywise, like back in history, and for some reason that's the form.
Well, like that's why I was kind of scared that it would have returned in Eddie's body, because we know that it existed before the clown.
Yeah.
Because it was killing all of the natives. And then, like, it obviously had weird forms that it did for that. And then when it started taking the clown's form, I'm wondering if it was one of the victims and it knew that form, it literally killed the old man who was the clown.
Yeah.
And then took its form because it knew that there were people around who were just simply scared of him. And he was like, okay, well, this works for my agenda. I'm going to keep this body to do this work. And then it just kind of shifts bodies whenever it needs to. And since it didn't have a body anymore, it just took what it could get. And so, like, when they're sitting, like, in that little pond river thing, I was just, like, just waiting for it to happen.
Yeah.
Like, this is that fake happy ending because bad stuff's going to happen and it's going to win because it's, like, space demon stuff.
Yeah.
And then it never did.
So how do we feel about Stars?
I'm going to give it a weak 4. It had a lot of stuff in it that I enjoyed, but I do have to compare it to the first one because this isn't a sequel, it's a part 2. And the part 1 was so much better. Did he just get louder?
I'm going to give it 3. And I'll tell you why. Because, like, in addition to all of the, like, things that weaken the things that are strong, there's one moment that I don't understand the purpose of and bothers me in particular for personal reasons, which is not fair to the movie. But because it makes no sense and I don't understand what it's for, then I don't think that it's not fair to say, like, you could have not had that and it wouldn't have bothered me in particular, and also it would have just been less weird. But the when he has the leprosy memory and then it happens again, the end of that scene is the thing, like, throws up black on him. And while it does that, like, 5 seconds of the song Angel of the Morning play. And I have no idea why. And it's weird. There's, like, no I don't remember that we have some association with that song from, like, you know, like that his mom played it or we heard it in the house. I don't remember that it's appeared in the series before. So, and it's just weird. Like, why that song? Why it's the only time something like that happens as, like, an accent. It feels like an internet video almost. Like, we're going to put this incongruous thing on this thing, and it's just odd. And, like, that song in particular is, like, important and special to me. And because that it does, I don't understand what purpose it served. Like, I would have disliked the moment anyway, but because it has particular association, then there's, like, this extra, like, why did you put that there for me to have to try not to remember now? And so, like, that knocks it down ever so slightly more. Because it would have just been barely a 4 anyway. It was almost a 3 already, because I think there are a lot of things about it that are weak that we probably didn't even bother to talk about.
To be honest, I didn't even remember that song playing in the scene.
Well, you probably wouldn't, but it's because it's an important song to me. It's weird. It's really weird. I don't understand. If you do understand, please write in and tell me what I'm not remembering, because I want to understand it if I have to deal with this existing, but I don't know if it's possible to understand or if it's just weird, just to be weird. So they were shooting a movie that they hadn't written the end of yet.
I know, right?
That's not a good idea. And not that it hasn't happened, because it does happen, but it's never a good idea.
Well, okay, so on that, because I kind of didn't want to bring it up, but now that we're here, I just think about it and I'm just like, I know that this has surely happened before, like in real life.
Oh, it has.
And you're going to tell me that even though you have the writer there, and the writer hasn't given you anything that you're supposed to work with, you didn't even have a backup? You didn't even have like an idea of you just having to BS it, where it's just like, okay, well, fine. If you're not going to give us what we need, I'm just going to BS it.
Mm-hmm.
Like something.
It's pretty unusual for the writer of a novel that's being adapted into a movie to also write the movie. It does happen from time to time, but it's not that common.
Well, even like with any little bits
Even
and
with
pieces.
it's not with Stephen King. It's not common. I think it's happened like twice, maybe. So,
well, like with the even with like the little bits that I've wrote, like I'll still come up with ideas, and even if I don't use the idea, if I'm told, well, we don't like this, then I can always fall back on the old idea that I personally didn't like.
yeah,
And it's just like,
something.
and he has like nothing. He's just like, duh. And I'm like, oh, come on. Even if it's still garbage, like he didn't even have a word on that page.
Well, no. Well, I mean, the thing is that if this guy is supposed to be Stephen King, at least for the purposes of like joking about people disliking his endings and
Give him some cocaine
and
and
that
a
he's
couple
popular
beers
and stuff. Well, not that. Like Stephen King's theory about writing is that you don't like I think I've talked about it before and like compared it to Andrew Stanton's like dinosaur theory because they're very similar. They're not the same. They have kind of different aspects, but they have a similar kind of basis. That like he says when he writes, it feels like he's just discovering something that already exists. And he doesn't mean it like literally, I don't think, but like it feels like you're digging up some like fossil thing. And he does actually make a dinosaur bones comparison, not in the like, is this the shape the bones are supposed to be in way like Andrew Stanton does. But like, so if this guy is Stephen King, like telling him to like just write something that's not what just came out of you when you were writing the story originally is probably not possible for him to do, because it's like, this is not like, this is the story. Like I wrote the story, you know, he doesn't outline stuff. He writes from beginning to end. Usually sometimes he'll have an idea for a scene and he'll write that and then that'll eventually turn into a whole thing. But for the most part, he writes from beginning to end. He doesn't know where it's going until it gets there. And so like once it gets there, like that's it. And like I understand that also, like it's hard for me to rewrite things that I've written because it's like, but that's what it felt like. That's what the thing that was in my head was that I needed to get out. And so to say like, well, but that's not, like they really should just bring in someone else. Like, this is the story you wrote. We like the rest of it. We don't like this part. You don't seem to be able to write a different version of that. Let's just get somebody else. We'll just tack an ending on. Somebody else can write something that we like. Like, that's better for everyone. Because it seems like he can't write it. Like, he's busy, like, drinking in his trailer, and he can't do it, and there's nothing on the page. And it's been, like, some period of time longer than they wanted it to be before they had an ending, and they're still shooting. And it hasn't happened. They should bring in someone else, write an ending, because it's not helping anyone making him sit there, look at a blank page to do something that he's not able to do.
Well, something else that I'm a big fan of are specifics. I like the whole devil in the detail kind of bit. And we didn't like your ending. Explain.
Yeah, why?
Give me.
Well, it seems like
give me
no one liked the ending. It
Yeah.
seems to be like universally complained about, but people still.
Well,
it's
I'm
still
not
popular enough that they're making a movie of it.
Yeah. Like, I'm not interested in everybody else's. Like, here's the director, and I'm supposed to be writing for the director. Like, work with me. Don't just tell me you don't like it. Give me something to work off of. Like, what was it you don't like? Maybe I can go back and tweak that part so we can stay as close to the original as possible while still maintaining something you enjoy.
Well, because it seems like...
Because, like, personally,
they want something
that's the stuff,
totally different,
like,
which seems like a weird thing to do to a story where it's like, well, this is the thing at the end of the story, the way it was written. We want something totally, and now for something completely different. Like, that seems like just as bad a thing to do, or just as likely a way for people to not like it.
Yes.
Because, like, this feels like it doesn't belong here, because, like, the end of Wonder Woman, like, this is not part of this story. Like, you can put it here and pretend that it belongs here, but it doesn't feel the same. It feels different. And so
Garbage.
it doesn't seem like it's even a good idea to say, let's just totally change the ending to this story because people were whiny. I don't even know how you're supposed to do that. And that's Peter Bogdanovich, the important director, cameoing as the director of the movie. And supposedly, Guillermo del Toro was supposed to play the janitor that Ben runs into in his memory. And they did make a deal with him, but then he's not in the movie anyway for as yet undisclosed reasons. So he was supposed to be, they wanted him in it. He agreed to be in it. He's not in it.
Maybe something
we have
happened.
no more information than that. So
maybe he couldn't be there because of a situation or an event, and they're like, we got to get this filmed.
Yeah.
Like,
so
we're
we don't
behind
know.
schedule. Like,
maybe
we just
one
got to
day
do
we'll
it.
know. Maybe there'll be an interview with him on the DVD.
Yeah.
And when we'll find out. And that's all we have to say about it, Chapter 2.
Well, only partially. Because I keep thinking about him being like, I'm the eater of worlds. And then just like, oh yeah, well, I'm the eater of your mom. Got him. And then just watch him shrink a little bit more because, like, seriously, you're in Derry and you haven't even eaten this world. It's been like 30-something years. Come on. Eater of
Well, it
worlds,
seems
my
to have
ass.
been like... It seems like... Before time began, there was the it. Like, that's what it feels like. Like, it crashed on Earth, like, not even ancient times. Like, before there was time. And then, like, it's been there all this time.
Like, Earth always existed, and then, like, time started, and it landed on it.
Yeah.
And like, I'm here to eat your world.
That's what it feels like.
Like, what are you, a nibbler?
Like, he's always been there. Like, as long as there have been people, he's been there. Although, I guess it's not, because
then
they
you can't
have
be-
the memory
yeah.
of the asteroid crashing or
Yeah,
whatever.
but then you can't be, like, the eater of worlds if you haven't even eaten your first world.
Yeah. Well, we don't know. Maybe that, like...
No,
He ate some
you
other
can't-
world somewhere and then traveled to
self-entitle
here.
yourself if you've never done it.
Well, that's what I mean. Maybe he did. Maybe it's like the Independence Day aliens. They go from place to place, and then when they show up here, they've been somewhere else, and they got finished with that, and now they're here. Welcome to Derry. We'll see you next time.
Later.
So they do try to run, which might not be the worst advice, because we have learned before that...
Running is better than dead.
Yeah, that's true. And it's not like an actual giant spider. Like, he's got, like, the tendril things going on, too. So it's not like, oh, if we stay underneath him and we maneuver around. Like, no, he's got the tendril things. He's going to get you anyways.
Yeah.
Like, stay on the move. Evasion. It's like Dark Souls. You don't wear heavy armor in Dark Souls. You wear light armor in Dark Souls, and you evade. Because if you get hit, you still die. Don't get hit. You don't get hit, you don't die.
Dead.